got a copy of your report before we released it today. And I'll share without hesitation that I felt I was reading what I think. So thank you so much for putting all those thoughts, all those realities into words for us all to see in a more visible fashion. We talk about these things, but when it's time to act, I do feel that what is now being talked about in terms of just transition is where we usually fail. It is the justice and the injustice part that we need to redress foremost. As far as the other issues are concerned, that the our planet Earth is choking, these are no longer matters to discuss upon. They are givens. They are givens that if we do not take rapid action, the Earth will choke. We will be responsible for that, and we need to take steps to ameliorate a situation we have maybe unthinkingly, with lack of foresight, created for us and for the future generations, whether it is the health issue, whether it is the environment issue, whether it is the current levels of whether it is manganese in the air, whether it is the PM 2.5 particle in the air, whether it is lead, or whether it is nickel, or whether there are all these other byproducts of not deeply thought out actions we have taken for our immediate goals of development. We are saddled with all of these issues today, apart from a just transition. So while we are in a situation where we have picked up goals, we have vocalized our commitments to the international community, whether it is 2030, whether it is 2050, whether it is 2070, how we will do it with justice to the inhabitants of those regions who would be being scaled back on the developmental ladder, who will be suffering job losses in the name of saving the world, who have not been given their rightful share of natural resource values, a base on which these states in the first place were created. Amir Dharti ke Garib Log was one of the catchwords vocalized by some of our leaders in the past. So these states which are known to be rich in natural resources and who are known to be way down in the development ladder, which are known to have the highest levels of BPL families in the country. Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh have been competing with each other as for the Reserve Bank data. We have been around 40% BPL families in these two states. Sometimes Jharkhand pips us by a couple of decimal points. Sometimes Chhattisgarh unfortunately goes ahead on those criteria. And yet we are seeing and talking about the largest producing district in the country, Korba. We are talking about Korba, who is providing the largest amount of coal to the country. I think it is around 16% or something. So that amount of coal being provided by one district, which has a BPL percentage of 41%, in itself, I think tells us the true story of how we have been planning our development, how today we are talking about just transition, where in the past we have not been just in developing the living standards of the population from whom or from whose geographical area we are extracting this natural wealth. So I don't want to sound parochial. I am a little sad because I am from that region and I have been seeing the use of these resources in the name of development of the country, where somehow the development of the country doesn't or hasn't given equitable thought and equitable opportunities to the people living in that geographical area. These are part of the planning processes we have adopted. These are the parts of the developmental models we have adopted. This is the way we have gone ahead. What has gone by has gone by. Uh, Time is not to talk about that. But today, if we are talking about an equitable or a just transition, and we are putting on record, Chandrabhushan ji, you and your team have put on record the loss that just this district will have in terms of revenue numbers. We were going through these numbers, the production of coal about 156 million metric tons annually. And we were seeing that the way this wealth is shared is has been unjust for this region, for the state. The state is providing this wealth to the country, and it is not getting even half the amount of the about 56, 5,700 crore annual revenue that is coming about. The state doesn't get even half. After the GST regime has come into place, what the state governments would get as VAT, 5% VAT, today we have the same 5% GST. 2.5% of that VAT is now taken away from the state through the GST regime, because it is contributed to the central GST amount. So those are the realities that we see in these areas, which we talk about as tribal dominant areas. We talk about so many percentage tribals living there, and it is not only the tribals who are living below the poverty line. It is the entire population. Chhattisgarh has a tribal population of, let us say, 32, 33%. So it is not enough to talk about just tribals. Every individual who lives in that district, every individual who lives in the state, his right or his aspirations to a better standard of living must be protected through policy interventions. And when policy decisions like the transition that we have committed ourselves to are taken at the highest level in the country, then at the highest level in the country, we must ensure that those opportunities for life sustenance, livelihood sustenance, incomes, salaries, etc., for these regions who will be impacted most by our planned transition are guaranteed, are ensured. Don't leave it to the state governments, they'll never be able to do it. They just do not have the resources to do it. So it'll be, handing the buck, okay, ye aapko karna hai, aapka raj hai, aap karo, aap dekho, you get these people, you get this, you get that. It will never happen. We'll talk 20 years down the line and we'll say, oh, these areas have slipped way back, lower down the developmental ladder. And we should have done this, we should have done this. So when you are having the foresight today to release your report in the presence of this most eminent panel, let us become the voice, let us become the thoughts of the people of that region to ensure that those who are taking the decisions must first come forward to ensure. Don't leave it to the states, because I can tell you the state government will not be, it is not capable of providing these alternatives. It just does not have the resources. So when we are taking this step, and if Korba is the case study for all such areas which will be affected by this transition, if we are to ensure justice in Korba, and through justice ensured for Korba, let us ensure justice for all the people living in all those regions who will be affected by this transition. What is the situation today? I was just checking with our officials in the electricity department, senior officials. Chhattisgarh has a captive power generation capacity of 20,000, roughly 20,000 megawatts today, of which DOYO report indicates about 6,000 odd megawatts in Korba. I am told the installed capacity there is 9,000 megawatts. The state electricity board has a capacity of 2,840 megawatts. This is the installed capacity, of which Korba alone has an installed capacity of 1,840 megawatts. This is the CGSPDL. What Chhattisgarh has today in terms of renewable capacity is 290 megawatts of solar, 280 of biomass, 120 of hydel. And the contracted capacities visualized by the state government is to place solar energy contribution to our peak capacity, which is today to 4,950 megawatts, is to place solar capacities at 8.5% of our need and 8% non-solar renewable energy, non-fossil fuel energy sources. So this is what the government is planning. And in between, we have seen that in spite of the COVID period, there has been an increase of 450 megawatts demand in the state itself. So this is the scenario to which Amitabh ji also referred. He mentioned about the national capacities, the growth in the requirement demand for energy that we'll be seeing, and transition in between. With that, ensuring not only job losses to be replaced, but to ensure more opportunities for people living in these regions. The powers that be, the decision makers that be at the highest level, must come out with some alternative. We are talking about 20 years down the line. So, are we going to announce a major manufacturing unit for Korba, which will absorb and which will provide through it and through its ancillary units job opportunities for the residents of that district? If we do that, what you are envisioning through the release of this excellent report, extremely well thought out and presented report, is to ensure that justice is met. We are talking about it internationally, but will we do it for Korba? Will the government of India announce that these units, is it going to be a railway coach manufacturing unit, or whether it is going to be some defense manufacturing unit? You have aluminium there, you have steel nearby, you have water, you have other natural resources. What can be placed there to provide job opportunities to about 80,000 people? We must start on that today, before 20 years down the line, when these mining activities and the power plants would have closed, they would have gone through their life cycle, etc. Already in Korba, the state government units to the tune of, it's not much, but 440 megawatt capacity power plants have already been closed. They've gone through their life cycle. Four more of our plants there, 210 megawatt capacity each, are being challenged by the new norms that have been put up by the central authorities, that the water to cool these chambers must, now those water plants must be installed in the units itself. Today, water is being cycled through canals, and then water goes to the plants and it goes, it runs off. So this will lead, for one, I am told that there is just no space to install these new units, these water circulation units in the plants that are there. I was just talking to the officer that we close one plant and put up a water circulation unit there, so the other three plants can use. So when we talk of justice, the injustice that these areas would be faced with, the injustice that would come about to the people of this area, so-called Amir Dharti ke so-called Garib Log, we must ensure today that they have these alternatives. Leave it to the state government, it will never happen. I'm saying this without hesitation. I'm speaking, I think, before a very, very erudite panel, and without hesitation, without again, any parochial balance or imbalance or bias or anything. I'm not speaking just for one region. It is there, it is close to us, it is close to our heart, it affects us more directly. That's okay. But unless we have these interventions today, we are not going to be able to reach our goal. We'll achieve transition. That is a given, it will happen. But will we achieve justice? A just transition for the people of these regions. That is the challenge which you have focused on. So I would congratulate you again, Chandrabhushan ji, and your team. Excellent work, timely, far-sighted, with data, options. Will we be able to take them in time? I am very happy that you have put up this challenge uh, in front of the intellectuals of the country, those who are policy decision makers and influencers, and through your and the efforts of your team, I do hope we will achieve just transition. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you all. And do keep advising us all the time till we are there to be able to contribute from our side. There's a small thing that the government of Chhattisgarh had in 2019 announced. You mentioned it in your report also, that we will not be putting up new power plants. So justice, injustice, what will it be for the state? What will it mean for the resources of the state? What will it mean for the dependency of the state? Lot of these factors are there, but leave those aside. We are moving ahead. We will move ahead. Together, we'll move ahead for transition. It will be just. We must ensure. Thank you so much.